Dan, I feel like I am back in college with that Sunday morning hangover.
After homecoming weekend.
Yeah, I felt like I've just been dropped out of a building or something.
Oh, I hear you. I am beat, but
And you should
man,
be even more so than me. Well, I did put in my fair share of traveling, unrelated to the Paul Bunyan show this weekend. But
yeah,
you, of course, had to do the airports and the rental cars, which takes a toll on you after a while.
that's right. And the airport shuttles. I was on a shuttle van, and then the plane, and then the rental. Oh, yeah, it was a couple long days there.
Yeah. So what Dan and I are talking about, this is the culmination of a long, well, you and me made it long for ourselves, a long Paul Bunyan trade show weekend, which good for me happens to be in Ohio. So it's a lot closer to my home base than Dan's, but it has turned out to be a large, what would you call it, Dan? A big YouTube community, uh,
Gathering,
a,
just to
ga- a,
gather.
a
Yeah, I don't know.
Woodstock.
It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy just how many people come together. And like we have the all roads lead to Ohio as well. Like that kicks off the whole weekend. So we have a lot
Yes.
going on, and it was great. It was a great weekend. I kind of last week kind of said I was feeling something that this would be, you know, one of the better shows of the year and one of the better experiences, and it lived up to everything, all the hype.
And fortunately, the weatherman was wrong again. The weather, okay, it can't be easy to forecast the weather in Ohio, but it went from 70 and sunshine all weekend to a complete washout to, I don't know, I didn't think the weather was that bad at all. There was an occasional drop of rain, but it was fine. The temperature was fine. There wasn't really any wind. There wasn't hardly any rain. I never once stepped in mud.
Nope.
Yeah, and maybe that is what I think. So I think this is your third year, and for as long as you've been coming, this is the largest crowd I've seen. I thought
Yeah.
it was very well attended.
Yep. Yeah. The only bad weather we had was at your place. That was that was the only bad weather was when we were at the Ohio Woodburner Woodyard.
Right. Well, they always say, if you want it to rain, go get your car washed, or
Yep.
if you want a drought, then go buy an umbrella. So we had on, I can't even remember what night that was. We had a
Thursday.
cookout. We had a cookout for some of the local friends that I have that are in the YouTube community, and some of the industry people who happen to be driving past my wood yard on the way in. And that was very well attended. We had it catered for the guys and gals that came, so that it wasn't worth, so that it was worth their time. And everything, we had a nice fire. Everything was nice until I guess the hardest rain I've ever witnessed in my life, wasn't it? What the heck, man? It could not have rained harder.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we were all huddled underneath a little pop-up shelter kind of,
Yeah.
you know, it really made it interesting because
And
the wind
and
was
then the
blowing.
lightning came.
The wind was blowing, so we had to all grab on and hold the shelter down. And then the lightning came, and yeah, it was pretty interesting.
The lightning was a little unnerving there.
Yeah. But I will say, Joe, that was a heck of a time, a heck of a spread you put on.
Well, thank
Just
you.
a great little gathering to kick off the weekend.
Well, that was all because of my wife, not because of me. She did all the work.
Well,
I was there just to be the host, the
I was
greeter.
going to ask who
She
was
did all the work.
responsible because I know
Yeah.
you didn't do any of the work.
No, I didn't even light the fire. I think Shibe lit the fire. Yeah, so who was all in attendance? There was you, and outside was Shibe. Isn't he awesome?
Yep.
And Adam from Hometown Acres. and then Andrew Easton from the Easton Made Wood Splitter Company, the Metza Machines crew, Bob Nelson, Patrick and Ryan. Andrew came with his wife and children.
Yep. And
And that
Shibe
was,
came with his buddies, Ian and
yeah, Shibe was
Sam.
there with his buddies.
Yep.
Log Hauler Jesse could not come because he had a breakdown and he was unable to make it. And who am I leaving out? Oh, John Roberts, the inventor and the owner of Logox,
Yes.
stopped in. And my good friend Marty from Lepo Rents, who provided the Bobcat machines for the Yappa people at the Paul Bunyan this weekend. I think that, am I missing
I think
anyone?
that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My good friends from across the lake, Gus and Shelley, came. My cousin Norma, my sister and her family, my niece and her family came too, and they all helped as well.
Yep. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was good. Good time.
yeah, it
Like I
was.
said, good way
And
to kick
then
off the weekend.
and then the rain chased us away early, so maybe that's why you were in such a good mood the next day. You got a good night's sleep. So then the next day was Friday morning, and that was our traditional live stream, All Roads Lead to Ohio 3.0.
Went off without a hitch. We were a little worried, a little nervous because we couldn't find, we were having issues. Well, not issues. It was just interesting that in your wood yard, you can have 3 bars of service, take 2 steps, and have 1 bar of service.
Yeah, and then you go back to where you were, and it's restored again.
Yeah.
And it was fluctuating between full bars of 4G and like 2 bars of 5G. It would just go back and forth like that. And when it would go to 5G, it would lose the signal. It was weird.
Yeah. But another good like start to, I guess, because the Bunyan show starts on Friday. So
Yes.
the
And
all
you did not
roads.
go to the show on Friday because right after the live stream, you headed south to Cambridge
Yes.
to prepare for what?
The Friday Night live stream.
Mm-hmm. And how many warnings or how many times did you get a foreboding stare from the manager of the hotel?
Well, so we had a little something interesting this year happen. There was a couple people that were trying to prank me, and they sent me a message that they had gotten into trouble the night before on Thursday. So I was like, all right, I got to get down to the hotel early. I've got to, smooth things over, make sure everything's good and fine for that evening. But when I got down there, the manager didn't know anything what I was talking about. She said everything's fine. She remembered me from last year, so that was good. And the person that was working the overnight that night also remembered everything from last year. So they were prepared. They knew what was coming. They were happy to see us. Very accommodating and welcoming. Great staff there at the Fairfield Inn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there was no drama.
No. Huh. Nope.
Well, that's nice.
And we had more people, I believe, in attendance this year than last year. So we did grow a little bit in size, and that was even. They had the fire out on the patio, and then Shibe had brought one of his smokeless fire pits. He had that going out there, so it was stuff happening everywhere.
Huh. I watched a little bit of it, and it was entertaining. Friday I had to leave and go pick up my daughter who goes to college pretty far away. So I spent the majority of the time in the car, but I was listening to some of it on my way back, and it sounded like it was pretty well attended.
Yes, very well. It was great to see everyone, and I think that's the whole thing, that one of the parts of this Bunyan weekend that's kind of been growing each year is just the camaraderie and like getting together with people and spending time outside of just seeing, equipment at the show. It's just great. Just a lot of great people. I forget all their names, but
yeah. And then the show started. So then Saturday, you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the show, which is at the Guernsey County Fairgrounds. So if you've ever been to a county fair, guys, just think of a county fair size of exhibits and people in attendance and a full parking lot, but it's all involving the timber industry, trees, the harvesters, the machines, the trucks, the saws, and then the firewood machines and the splitters and axe and chainsaws. It's like
Everything.
it's like a firewooders Disneyland.
Oh, and
What a great place.
yep. And the layout couldn't be better. I mean, you're walking down kind of we always park up on the hill, so when you're walking in, you kind of can like look over the whole the infield, the track, and
Yeah.
there was more vendors this year as well. Not only a larger attendance, but I think there was more to see. There
I
was a
thought
lot
there were
going on.
some subtle changes to the layout, and I loved it. I thought
Yeah.
it was awesome this year. Yeah, what a great time. Oh, the moment you get out of your car, you can tell you're someplace special. You can hear the buzz, literally, of the machines and the saws and stuff. And I think that's what goes on at the Paul Bunyan show at a higher degree than your other shows is how much wood is actually being processed while
Yeah.
you're there. You're seeing more of the machines actually working there than you would at other locations.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
You
what a
you
great
walk
place.
you walk through the gate. You got the sights. You got the sounds and the smells. You can
The
smell
smell.
the
Yes.
wood. You can smell the food. You can and every like you said every time almost there's something happening over here. There's a saw running or a machine running, and then that kind of ends, and then all of a sudden another one starts up, or the big mulchers start up. There's always something going on.
Yeah, boy, that was great. So, what did you do? What was your mission while you were there?
Walk around. I like to always walk around early just to see what I can see, kind of see where things are, and I can kind of make mental notes of what I want to kind of go back to maybe later in the day. So I get a lay of the land, and then I went to the Metza tent where the Yappas were, and just kind of hung out there for a little bit, and then I made my way over to the Easton Made booth, and I was kind of back and forth between those two all day.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, now remember, I am not a hobbyist.
No.
I have a business to run, and I take this. What was that sound? I I take a number of days off, and the people who know me that hang around me for a while, like Dan and all, they'll tell you that my phone rings constantly. So what I had done this time, I just turned my phone off, and I turned it off on Wednesday, and that was it, because this is like my vacation. And but on the day of the Paul Bunyan that I was down there Saturday, we had a family thing going on, not an emergency, but I had to be in touch with people. And so I had my ringer on, and I was at the Yappa tent, and I think people were witnessing what I experienced. So my phone was just ringing the entire time I was there, and I would pull it out of my pocket in a panic real fast to look at it. And it was firewood call coming in, and I literally had 70 calls missed from the moment I had turned my phone call off until I got back into the saddle on Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one of the unintended consequences for me with the YouTube thing and the firewood is this phone thing, and I just turn it off. People call me and leave messages all the time. I don't even listen to them. And then I'll have like my mailbox will be full, and I'll just zip right through them. And if it isn't a firewood order, I just delete it. I just can't even listen to these messages anymore, and they'll be pretty long messages. But anyhow, that was what I was dealing with. I get down there. Uh, I was a little bit behind schedule. I go right into the Yappa tent. I got in there right at noon when I was supposed to be there, and I was just overrun with nice people coming out to see the Yappas, coming out to see me, coming out to see you. And I never moved out of my spot probably for 2.5 hours.
Yep. Yeah, just a constant flow of people coming in, talking about. We even had, hey, we had a guy, and I was waiting for someone to come up to me and mention the podcast. I had a little special giveaway prize I was going to give that person. And sure enough, someone started talking to me and mentioned the podcast. And so that gentleman won himself a Back 40 firewood tumbler and some stickers and all
Wow.
that stuff. So it was, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I had a few people mention the podcast. I didn't it wasn't like everyone, where will comment on my channel, but I had a few mention the podcast. But I did get greeted by a gentleman who was the winner.
Yeah, yes.
He said that you even gave him a hug because he
Yep.
was the first one that you had heard from.
I didn't want
Makes
to
me glad
announce that as a prize
makes
because
me glad
then,
it wasn't. Yeah,
yeah,
makes me glad it wasn't me that mentioned it to you.
if I would have mentioned that I was giving away hugs, the lines would have been even longer.
You had to get out the door, probably, huh? Get out into the parking lot. Yeah, yeah, but what is it? Okay, this is what I see, Dan. Tell me if you feel the same way. The power of YouTube and like long form videos in firewood, because when you would walk around the grounds, who had the big crowds? Yappa, Easton Maid, Wolf Ridge, and like who's the sawmill with the two
Wood miser.
yeah, the two young ladies that have that Capitol, what's it called? Capitol Woodyard.
Yep.
Yeah. And there was I don't want to pick on anyone. You had pointed this out to me. There was a booth kind of close to the Yappa tent, and there was just like the one gentleman from the business that was there. I think he was literally all by himself. Just no one even, you know, and
Yep.
I had never heard of his machine. I've never seen it before. And it just seems to me that putting your stuff on YouTube, just getting it onto YouTube one way or the other, it just brings so much value to your company's image and visibility.
Exactly. 100% agree. It's almost like when people watch the videos, and yes, there's the personalities behind the channel that run the channel, but the machines featured, people want to come out and see those machines in person as well, like as the people that do the videos. So yeah, it's another added element that I think is overlooked all the time. The power of like social media, having content being created out there. Not only does it bring you awareness, but it brings that level of like people want to come and, like I said, see the thing in person. I watched your videos of the Yappa. Now I want to see it. I want to see how it looks and
Yeah.
how big it is and all that stuff. So yeah, it was definitely very noticeable where the attention was gravitating towards.
And another thing too, I think that those uh, YouTube heavy machines that we had just mentioned, they were also not just sitting at the show all shiny and polished. They were working them. All of the places that had the biggest pile of firewood under them had big crowds. Whenever
Yep.
Bob Nelson from Metza Machines would fire up that big 435, man, is that machine nice. It was like the Pied Piper. There would just be a big long line of people, just following that machine, watching
Yep.
it run. And then Easton Maid had a big pile of wood. Wolf Ridge had a big pile of wood. That Wood Miser tent had a whole bunch of milled boards.
Yep.
I
And
think if you are taking the time to come to one of those shows and run that machine, man.
yeah, and the thing is, like, Bob Nelson, and this is a testament to how great of a, not only representative of Yappa he is, but if there were two people there asking about the 435, he would fire it up. It didn't
Yeah.
matter. You didn't have to wait for a set time, like, oh, we're gonna run the machine at 1:30. Be here. No, one or two people wanting to see a log go through it, he'd fire it up and send it
Yeah.
through.
Yeah. And then he would let people push the buttons too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
I had a flashback to when I was in Bangor, Maine this spring. I walked past one firewood processor booth, and I still remember. I totally forgot about this. The rep was out there with a rag and a bottle of Armor All, and he was shining up the conveyor belt on it. And that's something that you do not see at the Paul Bunyan show.
Nope. No.
Oh yeah. At the Paul Bunyan show, I mean, there was just stuff everywhere. Just machines. And this year too, Dan, there were some machines first time in a while. I had never seen them before. I'd never heard of them before, and they were
No.
there. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. It was there was the one that answered a long time running question that I've always had. And that is, how does anyone ever split Australian hard titanium wood?
Tungsten
Yeah.
wood.
Because everyone always, asks me, like, always says, oh, try splitting Australian hardwood. So I was like, how does Australian hardwood ever get split? Well, I found out this weekend. There was a splitter called the Super Axe.
Yeah. It's funny. They split it with a log splitter. Go figure.
Yeah. Hydraulic power actually can split Australian hardwood.
That's amazing. So I saw those machines and I didn't know what they were. They had like a dinosaur for a mascot or something, right?
Yep.
And the one that, okay, I mean, it's a log splitter. It's what it does. I mean, it was still neat to look at, different paint schemes and stuff. I thought that was nice. What I really liked was that one that was, it had that big hopper.
Yes.
With the big rubber belt, and they would dump the rounds right into it. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool idea because it's at work height.
Yep.
It's pulling all of those rounds towards you. Yeah, it was cool.
And then the splitter with that was a vertical splitter that you would stand, waist, like I said, waist height. But on the back side of the knife, there was actually like a box wedge.
Yeah, I saw that.
You would vertically split and get, if your round was 14 inches wide, you'd get, 4 pieces split off of one slice.
Yeah, and I knew right away it wasn't from the United States because it was a 2-hand operation machine.
Yep.
Yeah, Americans want the right to cut body parts off when they when they use their machines. I was thinking, that if someone bought that, the first thing they would do would be to defeat that those 2 levers that you had to use.
Yeah. But yeah, what a machine. And like you said, the thing that caught my attention was that hopper.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. That was a great idea. I love seeing that kind of stuff, and that's what I was craving. And then I was wanting to do, like, I was going to show a video of it, and then they would say, oh, there's been like 10 people down here from YouTube. And I was like, well, I was trying to find something unique, but everyone else was already finding them. So I didn't want to put up something people are already tired of looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I went through with my live stream Sunday morning, they fired it up and were giving a quick little demo of it. And like I said, it was just awesome to see that. It reminded me of on the farm growing up, we had like the old manure spreaders that kind of had totally agree. Bring the manure back to the back, and it was just like that.
Yeah,
put the rounds.
That's what it was like. But it was kind of like that. That belt was like was it cushioned, or there wasn't like it wasn't resting on a metal table, because when I watched them dump them in, and it was like almost like a trampoline.
Yeah,
when it went into it. Yeah, I like that thing. That got my little rusty wheels grinding for that. And then that other company that has come now, I think this is 2 years in a row, Rabod.
Oh my goodness.
France, the red and yellow machines. Boy, they're different, big.
Oh,
good heavens.
They had the same thing. They had a great big, I think it was all like, you can tow it around, self-contained unit with like a big log arm on it to pick up the log, bring it in to the processing station, bucket, split it, send it out. And then they had the other one that had like you dump a bunch of rounds in, and it's just one great big ram that pushes them all through like this 48-way knife.
Yeah. But then from there, there was Dyna, brought a lot of machines. What's the ones that go on the skid steer? They were there.
Halversons.
And Wallenstein, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think all of the big players in firewood were there. That was real nice to see. Um, so there was we had talked about this before, and I was looking for the kilns, and I off in the distance, I thought I saw one, and I walked up there and I saw the kiln was as big as my house. And so I just walked on by. Why waste my time?
Oh, you could get all your wood seasoned all at once.
That kiln, how do they even take the thing down the highway? I don't know. Come on.
They build it on site.
We need to do an entire episode where I complain about kilns, Dan. Oh no, wait, we already did that.
Well, let me see. That sounds familiar.
Uh-huh. But here is something positive. You and me had talked about this. Let's talk about this, Dan. Here's what I've noticed in an evolution of the firewood industry. These guys and gals are getting very, very good with their marketing, the pizzazz, their displays at these events, the colors, and the tents and the flags and everything. The big signs with their bullet points. Could learn a lot about the machine just based upon that type of literature. I think
Yes.
that these guys are getting very good at that.
Yes, Wood Miser was on top of their game. They had great big banners, almost like billboard sized banners with, like you said,
Yes.
bullet points, all the high level specs that you might want to know. And yeah, if you stood like on the intersection of, I think it was like Bunyan Boulevard and Babes Way or something, there was like the little street, you stood
Uh-huh.
in the intersection of that and you looked around. It was tough to decide which way to go. Your attention was get grabbed everywhere.
I agree. I think that there is a level of professionalism, and these manufacturers are just upping their game. It's I I'm a ex retailer, and that is one of the big things about putting up a retail location is your signage has to make sense. And actually, if you have good signage, that takes a lot of pressure off your employees, because they
Yep.
can complete their task. And like, for instance, that new battery powered sawmill, I pretty much knew everything I felt I needed to know by reading their signage that they had up for it. It had how long it can run, how long does it take to charge, the battery chemistry, all that. I thought they did a really good job. And
Yes, they did.
but all of them, they just all have um and where I became sensitive to this was people like Bob Nelson with Yappa, because he points out about how to set up a booth. It's not just something where you just lay down some machines and some pamphlets. And he would point out to, how like it wasn't at Paul Bunyan, it was in Maine. I forgot to mention this too. There was this one processor that I wanted to see, but their booth was not inviting. They had like all of the reps were all sitting in chairs in a circle. It was almost like you would be invading their campsite, and it was not a welcome place to walk into, you know? And just those little things that you do at an event like that can keep people from coming to your booth.
Yep. Yeah, it's something that you notice right away. You're
Yeah.
standing outside a booth, and if it's busy and the vendor is talking with someone, and like you say, you just have a certain questions like high level specs. If you can read that on a banner, then you have everything. You don't need to like wait and talk and
Hmm.
get that information.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought overall it was a great show. Great show.
Best one yet.
I'm still going to be critical about the food thing though. Holy cow.
Oh, and I should mention, because I think I mentioned this before, I had a Bunyan burger. I
Oh
finally
wow.
did it.
How did you manage that?
I stood in line. I got in line about 11,
Uh-huh.
and by like 11:30, I had myself my Bunyan burger.
It was really that long?
Yeah, well, I was talking with a few people as well, so that might have delayed it a little bit. But yeah,
Uh-huh. Gosh. I just think that's unacceptable. To wait, that long for food. Come on. And a hamburger. How long does it take? I walked in and took the I walked the track all the way around the facility before I went into the Yappa tent. So it was at high noon when I was there, and just the lines, like at that pizza and the barbecue place, just crazy. Come
Yeah.
on. If I ran an event and I seen lines like that for food, I that's something I have to fix. I cannot have my fair goers waiting this long for something. There's got to be more food vendors at the Paul Bunyan show. Got to be.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
even just, I did notice one little satellite vendor down like on the infield, but they were just selling French fries.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just or have places where you could like even just go get like a bottle of water or a soda. Like you wouldn't have to wait in line with everyone wanting food if you wanted to just get water.
Yeah, I was wanting to get me a bottle of Dr. Pepper before I got to the tent, and I thought, there were there really isn't even any like local organizations, like the local school band or the cheerleaders that have a charity drive, where they're selling bottled water for
Yeah.
a fundraiser. There really wasn't there wasn't anything even like that.
No.
Just sprinkled throughout the event because darn well that they'd make a killing. Because I wasn't going to wait in line for a half hour for a bottle of pop, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Fortunately, I had like 20 bottles after the meet and greet at the Yappa tent from some very generous subscribers to Ohio Woodburner.
Right.
Very generous people.
Now we did get a comment on last week's episode that someone mentioned that they weren't going to go because of how we were, kind of downplaying the whole food situation. But
Oh,
you have
come
to
on.
also think of this as if this isn't an event you're going to for the food. So
Yeah.
if, don't let that deter you and don't, cancel your plans for next year because you might have to stand in line to get
That's
something.
not a valid reason. Come on.
Yeah. This
Bring your own
show,
food. What the heck?
this show is something that if you have any
Gosh.
interest, you will have a good time. It's there's so much to see, so many people to meet. Again, this year for me was out of the three, this was the best one yet.
Yeah. Hands down, too. Not even
Yep.
close. Yeah. I think that you could have zero interest in timber and firewood or anything to deal with this stuff, and you would just be blown away. It is that much fun. It just appeals to all of your senses.
And I did hear that for the first time, I think ever, all of the vendor space is already sold out for next year, and there is now a waiting list.
Oh, wow.
So next year, potentially, could even be better.
Well, tells me they need to make it, expand or rethink the floor plan, and you can get even some more in there. I thought what they did different this year that was really cool was on the outside of the track, back in that corner, which used to be like the chainsaw carving and stuff. And I don't know, that's kind of like, people just go there specifically for that, but they had some stuff back in those corners now, like
Yes.
that Verp V pack, that big bagging machine. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like they had the outer ring and then a little outer ring of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. I think that, there's still room for expansion. And even there, like where the Yappa tent was. Now I think that big one machine never came this year, but it looked like that could have more stuff stuck in there.
Well, I don't know. Once we get our lines of people lining up to meet you, it gets a little tight, elbow to elbow in there.
Uh-huh. And I like that there was some things got moved around too, which was nice. Like Easton Made was in a different spot.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's just healthy for the event to just move stuff around and break up any monotony that you could be accused of having.
right. And it
Yeah.
shows that the event staff and the people in charge are looking for ways to improve. They're not just like settling for, well, this is the way we've always done it, so let's just do it again.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I like improvement, innovation, and not just resting on past performance. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the Paul Bunyan. What a great show. I'm proud that it's in my state,
I'm
and
not.
I'm proud. Yeah.
I wish it'd be up here in
It
Wisconsin.
wasn't it?
We got
Yeah.
we gotta get you traveling up here one of these times.
I got to get up there. I know. I do. It'll be another chance for me to turn my phone off. That was have you ever turn off your phone and then turn it on when you have 70 messages and watch what happens?
Yeah.
It was very discouraging. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well,
Unintended consequences.
you better run. We better wrap this up so you can go start returning some of those calls.
I am. I've been the truck. I got my high school helper. We've just been slamming loads and going, man. Yeah, nonstop. And then we've had this break of the weather, that heat's left, and it kind of feels like fall outside, and that's what people start thinking.
Yep.
And then when
Busy
people
time.
start burning their leaves, they'll smell it, and then they'll think firewood, and then my phone rings even more.
Oh my.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I want to thank you for coming down and hanging out with me and working in my yard. It was nice watching you do work and watching Shibe and his friends do work. That was really nice. So
well,
thanks for coming. I'm glad that you came and that you had a nice time and that you returned safely. And I'm glad to call you a friend. I think you're awesome.
Thank you for having us in the hospitality, and I never leave Ohio disappointed. And mostly because of you, Joe. Great seeing you.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, Dan, what do you think? We strike up the band and let's sit around and wait until next first weekend of October.
Yeah. 1 year left, 1 year remaining. Can't wait.
Yep.
Looking forward to it already. So yes, thanks everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Woodhounds podcast, the #1 firewood podcast in the world.
That's right. And thank you to everyone for helping make the Woodhounds the #1 firewood podcast. We really appreciate it. And we want to tell everyone to try to be
cool
and insist upon being
fun
and have
a great day.